welcome back. I decided to make a presentation for Module 2 because I figured that this should give you a better idea on our progress so far in this class. So last time, particularly last meeting, we rounded up Module 1 by saying that ultimately ethics and morality are concerned with finding out what is the right and good action to take, good disposition to develop in every moral agent, which means every human person. And we said that there are at least four theories which purport to lead the way, but upon closer examination, fail us tremendously. These are, number one, cultural relativism, the idea that what is right and wrong can be identified on the basis of culture alone. Number two, subjectivism, that what is right and good can be known by consulting feelings. Number three, religion. We said that while religion ultimately has been serving civilizations since time immemorial in matters of morality, but to use religion alone to determine what is right and what is good proved to be problematic. And finally, we also said that egoism as a theory, the idea that we are not capable of anything good apart from our own selfish interests, is also problematic. So I think now we are left with the question. So having said all of these things, can we really become better individuals in terms of morality? Which means, is there really a chance to transcend over and beyond the four minimalist theories? So that is what I want us to find out in Module 2. So let's begin. How does one become an ethical person? So can one actually go beyond minimalist basis in morality? And what is disposition? What are the stages of moral development? These are the things that I'd like to touch on in this module. By the way, I'd like to thank Dr. Tonet Palma Angeles for the deck that I'm using today. I edited this a bit, but ultimately this is from Dr. Palma Angeles of the Department of Philosophy. So let's begin with character. What is character? So I'd like to caution you that as we move along and we talk about case studies, the idea or the attraction that ethics is more concerned with actions, individual actions, might be very strong. But being ethical is not about individual ethical acts. For example, your little brother helps out in doing household chores. That alone qualifies, or that alone qualifies him to become a good boy, for example. So it's not always the case. Talking about being ethical is talking about character. And character comes from the Greek word karasein, which means to engrave and to inscribe. So a character, or character disposition, has something to do with what you are. What you are, kaya nga engrave and inscribe. It's already a part of you, and it is not fleeting. It's not temporal. It is enduring. So imagine a sculptor. Character is a product slowly sculpted through time. So once you know a person, quote unquote, know a person now, doesn't mean that the person is not capable of any change whatsoever. So every human person is in the process of being sculpted, in effect. Of course, without the sculptor. We are in the process of being sculpted by ourselves in matters of morality. That we, as we go through life and confront issues and problems, dilemmas, day in and day out, we sharpen our moral tools and moral, you might say, moral tools and moral skills, no, in order to become a better person each day, no, to become the sort of person that we hope we can eventually characterize as a moral, no, or ethical. So how is this character developed? No, I remember in elementary, I don't know in your case if you're familiar with this, we used to have a subject called good manners and right conduct. No, this year, the Congress of the Philippines legislated a law that prescribes the resurrection of the subject matter. No, I think in most schools now, it's edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, or if it's a Catholic school or a Christian school, they usually have Christian living. But now, I think more than ever, there is a need to institute a course in basic education that targets precisely character development. No, it has been observed, at least you might say anecdotally, no, by a lot of education practitioners, that character education has been lagging behind, no, in basic education these days. No, so ano ba tong character that we are supposed to develop? Character is something that is developed over time. No, character is what you are, who you are. No, kaya nga in the previous slide we say it's something inscribed. No, when you read a novel or a short story, the character is what the person is, no, who the person is, no. So how do you develop a character? It is not something that is developed carelessly, no, it is developed deliberately and mindfully. Of course, in the beginning, we have to admit that most of us, no, and if you've studied your developmental psychology, no, most of us grow up, and the manner of character development wasn't really deliberate. No, by deliberate meaning something that emanates from our own autonomous selves. No, we are formed by other people without us knowing. No, this is knowing, without us knowing it. No, so you have your home, school, peers, your workplace, your mentors, role models, sometimes even those that we just bump into. No, you're in Jollibee and you notice that the staff, no, or the crew members are very helpful. You realize, wow, ganun pala maging matulungin, no? If you see an elderly woman, no, carrying her tray, no, you realize that even if you're preoccupied with your own tasks, no, maybe you can spare some minute to actually help the elder woman. No, so by seeing these exemplars or personalities, then you are given an idea of what it means to actually live a good life. No, ganun pagbata, no? So, hindi ba there have been a lot of commercials in the past, no? Pinapakita na kung ano yung gawa ng magulang, yun ay nagiging ganun din yung mga anak, no? But one more way or method by which character is developed is through dilemmas and crisis or life-changing events. No? And I think we have mentioned some of these cases, or at least we have mentioned examples in our past discussions. No, these dilemmas, no, that we encounter in every part of our lives. No, they provide us with an opportunity to test our moral judgment. No, ano yung gagawin ko this time? No, and if you fail, then I told you that in matters of morality, there's really no way to correct mistakes. No, it's always just an issue of, will you be doing better next time? So these dilemmas, crises, life-changing events, they allow you to become a better individual in terms of character. So to be ethical is to develop a disposition, no, which develops in stages that move from a heteronomous to an autonomous will. No, independent thinking based on universal principles. What do we mean by heteronomous, not an autonomous will? When you say heteronomous, no, you mean that it is something, just like what I mentioned in the previous slide, something that does not emanate from your own autonomous self. It's usually a wheel that is a product of the multifarious influences around you. No? So, lumaki ka sa ganitong environment, and this is how you were brought up by your parents, by your caretaker, I mean by your yaya or nanny or whoever, by your teachers in elementary. So now this is what you are or who you are after that, no? But then the goal of moral development is to eventually find your own voice, no? And that is what we mean by autonomous, no? After having been influenced by all of these external factors, your family, your school, your church, other people, your friends, no, there will come a point, hopefully, that you can take responsibility for your own decisions, so without having to blame other people because that's how you were raised, that's how you were brought up, etc. No, and the goal of moral thinking is to eventually reach that point, no, to develop your own disposition. So it is here that we make a distinction between acts from and acts that lead to, parehas yan, no? Acts from and acts that lead to, no, disposition, no, or character. Acts that lead to the formation of the ethical character are usually not mine. No? That's what I told you earlier. They are compelled by outside authorities, groups, rewards, or motivations. In other words, you are not totally free. No? So these are the acts that lead. On the other hand, the goal is to eventually have a disposition where your acts will emanate from. No? So acts that emanate from a mature ethical character are mine, based on universal principles, no, understanding of common good. No? So once you have reached a disposition that you can rightfully claim to be morally matured, then it is also incumbent for you to, and on you, to produce actions or acts that you can be proud of and claim, okay, these are acts that emanate from a matured ethical character. And these acts are definitely yours. No? Wala ka nang i-blame na iba kasi ganito ko pinalaki, kasi ito yung nakita ko sa mga kaibigan ko. No? Because you have developed a character, a disposition na yung iyo. No? Remember, when you're still not morally matured, sometimes you can easily be swayed. No? Ito yung gusto mo, ito yung sa tingin mong tama, but once other people talk you into changing your mind, minsan madali kang masway kasi hindi pa matured ang iyong moral foundation. The goal is to have a morally matured disposition. Because according to Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. So again, this moral disposition is not something that you can have overnight. No, it takes a while. No, so it's a long process of honing one's character in order for you to eventually be the kind of person that you want to be. Ang tanong, so paano po magiging ganun? No, how do we become that kind of person? No, well, sabi ni Kohlberg, Lawrence Kohlberg, moral psychologist, no, Lawrence Kohlberg, sabi niya, proseso yan eh, no? It's not like a cuisine, no, that you can just prepare by following the recipe, no? Moral development happens slowly, gradually, but certainly, no? It's not something that only happens to particular people. It happens to all of us, no? Kaya lang, iba-iba lang tayo ng bilis, iba-iba tayo ng progress, dahil hindi naman tayo exactly the same, no? So, sabi ni Lawrence Kohlberg, merong three main levels dyan, no? Where each of them has two stages, no? The pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. This is what you saw in the video that I embedded in your Canvas class, no? So we will just go through this very quickly because you've already seen the video that I posted last night, no? So number one, under pre-conventional or the self-focused stage, no, may stage 1 ka, punishment, no, authority orientation. In other words, you think that what is right and what is good is what does not lead to punishment. No, so when you were little boys and little girls, what is good and what is right is to obey your parents. Otherwise, you will be penalized. No, so your parents are seen as authority figures. You fear them. No, your grandparents. So whenever they tell you do this, do that, no, so you obey because that is what's right. No, otherwise you suffer consequences. Sometimes, oh, if you don't do that, I will not give you lollipop or I will not give you this toy. So of course, you are conditioned to follow, to obey. So that is stage 1. No, you know, it would be very, very sad if at this point of your life you still think that morality is limited to this stage. No, punishment, and you just simply obey what your authorities tell you without the benefit of your own deliberation. Okay, stage 2 is pleasure orientation, no, or self-satisfaction. What's in it for me? No, you think that what is good and what is right is so that which provides you with what you want, no, or with your own self-interest. So, for example, growing up, no, you realize, it's not just what my parents tell me, no, it's also something that gives me what what I like, no. So for example, actions that eventually lead to rewards are considered good, no. Every time you do something like this, you are rewarded, not just by authority figures, but generally, no, rewarded, no. So halimbawa, an action that eventually yields more friends, no. Kapag pala nag-share ka ng baon mo every recess, na-realize mo na yung mga kaklase mo whom you share your food with eventually befriend you, no. So you realize that sharing is a good thing, no. So that is under stage 2, no, or pleasure orientation. So stage 1, punishment and obedience orientation, this is about obeying rules in order to avoid punishment. This is about thinking of right and wrong in terms of what is not punished and what is punished. And this is about deference to authority more than moral value. Obeys authority, especially if that authority has the power to inflict pain. Okay? And ultimately motivated by fear. Individuals are usually 7 years old and above. Okay, sabi ko kanina, it would be unfortunate if until now you still reason morally on the basis of punishment and obedience alone. Okay, so stage 2, on the other hand, will do a favor only in exchange for a favor desired. No? So I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Pleasure seeker, hedonistic. Okay? So let's now go to the second major stage, no? Divided into 2. Stages. Number 1, outsider to society, no? Does not play by its rules, no? So pag-usapan natin yung I'm sorry. That's still with pre-conventional, apparently, no? Under pre-conventional stages, the moral agent is an outsider to society and does not play by its rules, no? So 7 years old and below kids are still not aware of their membership to society, no? So what is good and what is bad, right and wrong, are not even about society or the rules of society. They only see what's good and bad in terms of what an authority figure tells them or what gives them pleasure and what makes them avoid punishment. So the second group of stages would be conventional. So here, as opposed to the more individualistic and basic, di ba? Rewards and punishment and pleasure lang. This one, you are now part of a society. No? So what is right and what is wrong is usually dictated by your membership in a society. So stage 3 would be peer and group acceptance orientation. So here you are motivated by the approval of your group. No, if your friends tell you, "Wag na yan, let's not do that," no, or for example, yung mga friends na bad influence, no, just tell your mom, we're just having a group study, no, when in fact you're hanging out with friends lang, hindi ka talaga nag-aaral, no? But you think that there's nothing wrong because that's what your peers tell you to do, no? Fourth is legalistic orientation. So here, you think that what is right and what is good, you think that what is right and what is good are those actions that are consistent with laws, no? And your duties to the society. So let's take a look at each of the two stages. So stage 3, peer interpersonal concordance of good. So this is the idea of good boy or good girl. No? Need to belong to a group for identity and stability. Pleaser, good behavior by conforming with stereotypical notions of nice. Examples, sir, do not complain or rock the boat. Problem, we belong to many groups. No? What happens when there are conflicting expectations? No? So, under the stage 3, no, you find yourselves doing and thinking that what is right and what is good is what is acceptable to your group. No? Yung barkada mo, for example. The problem, however, and this is where confusion arises, what if you're part of a group that tells you this is the right thing to do? And that proclamation is directly opposite another group's declaration. So how do you manage the conflict? So stage 4, law and order orientation. So from concern for a group to concern for the abstract and generally applicable law. So here you have respect for law and authority because of order law brings about. Law protects people's rights and guarantees social order. For example, tendency of chaotic societies to abide by authoritarian rule in search of order. No, I don't think I have to talk about examples from history to tell you that a lot of people tend to consider law as absolute, no, when it comes to right and wrong. On the other hand, the history of thought is very clear, no, that laws were made to put some order into a society that that is otherwise capable of ethics, no? So in other words, it is ethics that predates laws. And yet some people think that laws are the be-all and end-all of what is right and what is good. Laws are there and they have been placed in order to aid ethics in guiding us, no, into living an orderly existence, no. But it's not the other way around, no. Laws should be guided by ethics, and ethics should not be guided by laws. So, when you talk about the last group of stages, this is what we call the post-conventional or universal focused. So it's not just individual, no, just like the pre-conventional. It's not just social or societal like the conventional, but post-conventional is universal focused. So now, the moral agent should be able to go beyond individual interests, should go beyond the interests of the society only, but should aspire for the common good and some universal principles. No? So under stage 5, you have common good, standards of society, social contract. Stage 6 is universal principles, decision of conscience, and logical moral principles. Let's just quickly go through them. Stage 5, social contract orientation. Moral principles defined apart from authority of persons can challenge laws based on rationality. Okay? Good of the many, consensus rather than majority rules. No? In the in the conventional stages, no, the group morality of stage 3 and the legalistic morality of stage 4, majority rules dyan, no? But here in stage 5, you can go beyond what is legalistic, no? And find not just what the majority wants, but some form of consensus. You want to make sure that everybody is accounted for. Kasi more than laws and interests, you realize that morality has more to do with so much more. No? So you are now aware of relativism of personal values, thus deference to procedural rules for reaching consensus. Stage 5, laws can be changed, social utility is more important. Personal freedom and common good distinguished, and individual rights can be subsumed to common good. You realize that there is something over and beyond individual or societal good, and that is the common good, which should be able to subsume all other inferior goods. But it doesn't stop with stage 5. The goal, ideally, is we all reach stage 6, no? Or the universal principle orientation. And what is the universal principle orientation? Here we find self-chosen principles. But when we say self-chosen, we don't mean self-serving. We mean self-chosen because, again, going back to the initial slides, no, they are principles produced by an autonomous self. Okay? So they are measured in terms of logical rationality, consistency, and universalizability or universality, and concern for the dignity of others, thought of as an ideal or aspirational stage, no? That which we all hope to achieve. So under stage 6, we make decisions based on conscience. But conscience, not necessarily a direct line to righteousness or God, or not requiring thought, even if we are in the image of and likeness of God. No? But conscience is also a judgment of reason. No? That is from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, section 1, chapter 1, article 6. But even without the aid of religion, no, or theology, I think what we mean by stage 6 is that eventually all human persons should be able to reach that point when he or she can decide morally, not on the basis of individual benefits, no, rewards, and absence of punishment, or groupthink, or legalistic morality, or even the common good, but rather that we can all think of morality as something that is right, simply because it is right, no? Or yun yung sinasabi nating judgment of reason. Well, of course, Aristotle, the ancient philosopher who started who first wrote a treatise on ethics, no, the Nicomachean Ethics, has a term for this, na parang ang term niya ay practical wisdom, no? That you know what to do when you're faced with a particular dilemma. Okay. So this is the summary of stages. And the development to next stage is, again, not something given. It is prompted by dilemmas. Mentors do matter. Culture surely does influence. And it's about cumulative and consistent actions. One does not jump 2 stages up. It's always 1 stages up, and then 1 stage up again, and then 1 stage up again. So a conscientious moral agent is someone who impartially considers everyone's interest, sifts facts, examines consequences, checks soundness of principles of conduct, revises earlier convictions, and acts on principles. So how do we get to stage 6? No, do not avoid moral controversies. Confront them and understand them. No, that's why in this course we will try to expose you to as many and hopefully as varied moral dilemmas. And I encourage you to confront your own personal dilemmas or watch movies, watch the news, and identify moral dilemmas as they present themselves to you. You engage in logical thinking or reasoned argument rather than emotional discussions. And I hope that this class will be able to provide you with that healthy space for healthy, logical, and rational discussions. Ask authority for space and autonomy to make moral decisions and take responsibility for this. Do not be afraid to make decisions. If you fail, it's still good. It will, the cliche that will make you a better person is actually true. No, it is by making these mistakes that we hone our moral compass. So expose yourself to arguments of people who are at a higher reasoning stage, those whom you can call mentors, and participate in the creation or maintenance of a just society. So what are the insights from the stages? Stages develop from heteronomous to autonomous will, and from self-interests to principles. Increasing abstraction. The higher you get, the more abstracted it becomes. No? Sa simula, simpleng-simple lang. Ano yung may reward ako at hindi ako mapagalitan? But eventually, when you get to stages 5 and 6, it's more abstracted. That's why it's more more vague. Kasi hindi mo na kanino mo itatanong, what is the right thing to do? What is the good thing to do? To whom will you verify whether your moral compass is pointing towards the right decision? Mahirap because it's abstracted. An ethical character is not inherited, but we must pay attention to how it is developed. Attention to everyday mundane things we do. How we behave in the everyday set up our responses to the incipient moments, the limit situations, the dilemmas, and crisis or life-changing events. So I think that's it. So the hope of Module 2 is that we all reach stage 6. Of course, if you ask Lawrence Kohlberg, everything is dependent on our moral development. So that means that's also psychological and to some extent also dependent on our age, Of course, that doesn't mean na lahat ng mga nakaabot ng stage 6 matatanda ng sobra, o hindi rin naman nangangahulugan na yung mga matatanda ng sobra nakaabot ng stage 6, I think more than normative, Lawrence Kohlberg's framework of moral development is descriptive. It's a descriptive theory that attempts to make sense of how human beings generally tend to move from a moral point of view. Okay? So if you have questions, then you will just ask me after this during your synchronous session.
Managing social media campaigns with Monday.com is easy. How easy? This easy.